All right, so today we're jumping right into the final chapter of Paul's pretty fiery letter to the Galatians. And let me tell you, this isn't just some simple sign-off. Nope. This is Paul's blueprint for a completely revolutionary new kind of community. A vision that is, I think, just as challenging today as it was 2,000 years ago. This is the question at the heart of it all. I mean, just imagine. You've got this vibrant, multi-ethnic community born out of this radical message of freedom in Jesus, and then, all of a sudden, it starts getting torn apart from the inside. The Galatian churches were in a full-blown crisis, seriously tempted to ditch their new identity for old, destructive patterns. This is the emergency that Paul is writing to address. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start by diagnosing the crisis in Galatia. Then we'll explore Paul's big solutions, something he calls the law of Christ, this principle of sowing and reaping, the idea of boasting in the cross, and finally, what he calls the ultimate rule for this new creation. Okay, first up, let's get a handle on the problem. At its very core, this was a community that was feeling this massive gravitational pull back toward the old world. You see, Paul saw reality in two completely distinct categories. There was the present evil age, which, runs on division and status and who's in and who's out. And then there's the new creation, which runs on unity and love. The troublemakers in Galatia were basically trying to drag everybody back into that old system by saying, hey, you need these external markers like circumcision to prove you belong. This quote from Dr. Tim Gombis just nails a core Pauline principle. Paul's warning here is really profound. You absolutely cannot build a community of love and unity using the old world's tools of anger, force, or coercion. Trying to shame or condemn people into being better is only ever going to produce the rotten fruit of division and conflict. It just doesn't work. So, if the old tools are off the table, what are you supposed to do? Well, Paul offers this radical alternative that he calls the law of Christ. And the very first instruction is, wow, it's shockingly simple but so deep. Bear one another's burdens. This is all about radical, active, get-your-hands-dirty community support, the total opposite of the self-interested, status-driven world they were being tempted by. But then, wait a minute. Just a few verses later, Paul says this, which on the surface sounds like a complete contradiction, right? First, he says to carry each other's heavy stuff, and now he's saying everyone's got to carry their own load. So what is going on here? Well, it's not a contradiction at all. It's actually brilliant. You see, bearing burdens is about our horizontal relationships, how we support each other in the community, day to day. But bearing your own load, that's about our vertical relationship. That's our individual accountability before God on the final day. A truly healthy community needs both. We got to have each other's backs, but we also have to own our stuff. Now from here, Paul raises the stakes. He brings in this really powerful agricultural metaphor to show that the choices they're making have ultimate cosmic consequences. Paul basically says, look, every day you are constantly investing or sowing your life into something. You can sow to the flesh, which is investing in the old world of self-interest, rivalry, and division, and the harvest you'll get from that, corruption or decay. It all falls apart. Or you can sow to the spirit, investing in the new creation community through service and gentleness. The harvest there is eternal life. The crucial point is, where is your community investing its energy? Okay, now we are getting to the absolute heart of Paul's argument, and it's a complete top-to-bottom redefinition of what's valuable, of what's actually worth boasting about. Just look at this contrast. It's night and day. The agitators, they want to boast in things that make them look good in the eyes of the old world, their status, their ethnic identity, their external righteousness. But Paul's boast is the exact opposite. He boasts in the cross, a symbol of Roman shame, of weakness, of utter failure. Why? Why would he do that? Because the cross is the very thing that destroyed the old world's entire value system. And this leads us to a really important concept, cruciformity. It just means a life that is literally shaped by the pattern of the cross. It's a conscious choice to embrace service, humility, and even weakness over the world's frantic scramble for power and status. For Paul, the great paradox is that the closer you get to the cross, the closer you get to real resurrection power. This is one of the most powerful statements in all of Paul's letters. You can almost feel it. It's a declaration of divorce. He's saying the world, with all its ways of keeping score, all its metrics for success and value, it's been executed in his sight, and he, in turn, is dead to its appeals. It's a complete and total break. His identity is now found somewhere else entirely. So let's bring this all together. What's the final, practical rule for this new community? And more importantly, why does any of this still matter for us today? Paul calls it his canon, which is like his measuring stick, his rule. And it's this: in this new reality, the old distinctions we use to slice and dice humanity, like ethnicity or religious status, they're irrelevant. Circumcised, uncircumcised, it means nothing. The only thing that matters is being a part of this new creation, a new humanity that isn't defined by external markers, but by an internal transformation. And this is where it gets personal, right? The specific debate in Galatia was about circumcision, but that underlying temptation is timeless. We all have our own tribalisms that threaten to divide us and pull us back into that old world. Our political parties, our denominational labels, our national identities. Paul's warning echoes down to us. Whenever these things become our primary source of identity, we risk betraying the core rule of the new creation. So we end with this question, for all of us. What are the labels and groups that you use to define yourself and to define others? And what would it truly look like to let those things be crucified? To let them take a back seat? And to find your ultimate boast, your ultimate identity, not in them, but in the cross?